not a bone to pick with you, but I was perusing the internet and learning this week from the great Corey Hofstein. And part of it is, by the way, there's two things. The Inception one, where like I put an idea in your brain every month for 18 months, and then you think it's your own, which is fantastic. I mean, that's the only joy I get in life.
You know, you take a lot of credit for things I think. You take a lot of credit for things I think, my friend.
Can I finish? Can I finish? Can I finish? The other one you'd love to
carefully.
Yeah, the other is I sometimes have notes where I'm going another show, but I love how you always interject and you front run me and you just tell my entire story before I get a chance to. So that's the other one. So what I mean by that, why I bring that up was we were both I was recently on, and shout out to you because you're the one that got me on there, the Excess Returns podcast to show us your portfolio. And I listened to yours before I was supposed to go on there, and I was like, Corey just said everything I was going to say, so I don't know what I'm going to do here.
Well, yeah, I did steal everything I was going to say from you. It was
no,
great.
You didn't. No, you didn't. But it was, once again, I was just like, I have nothing to add. But why I bring that up, what I want to talk about in that sense was you started talking about a discussion you and I have had many times, and I'm not saying, I mean, you probably came up with sui generis, has nothing to do with me, so I just want to turn that back around. But the idea of bond-like incomes. You know, like when we talk about people and their jobs, ideally people should think about whether your income is a bond-like income, like a doctor, or a equity-like income, like an entrepreneur. And then that's a way to overarchingly think about your portfolio at a high level. So then when you have savings left over that you don't need for your business or your job or for your life expenses, is like when you go to invest those, is how you should align those investments with what your income is like. So if you have a bond-like income, maybe you need to be more equities. If you have an equity-like crazy income like we have, maybe you need to be more like bond structures. And I just think that's a fascinating way to kind of think about the world and break it down. Like I think I talked to my my sister and her husband a long time ago about this. They're surgeons, right? And they're in Miami, so they get upset like as their friends that are just like flipping real estate or whatever will make millions of dollars in a year. And they're like, they feel like they're not keeping up with the Joneses. But then, as we know, a few years later, they're going to lose everything, those friends. Right, meanwhile, they're just chugging along at that bond-like income. So I was like trying to explain to them in the same way. It's like, you went for a bond-like income. They're going for an equity. I would say equity, but it's more like a VC, PE. I don't know. What's that? Like crypto-like equity income.
Right. Yeah, I think we focus so much time on investment capital, the discussion of investment capital, because it's liquid, we can move it around. The returns are incredibly tangible to us. We get the feedback loop every single day of what the market is pricing. Did it go up? Did it go down? You have a ton of optionality in terms of what you're investing in. We don't think of our careers the same way, right? I think it's stickier. We think of it as being less liquid. There's more, I guess, friction in trying to change what your human capital is, right? All those things. But that human capital is a huge driver of your long-term wealth. And the nature of the human capital should be thought in conjunction with the investment capital, because that is your total capital. And I do really think that thinking for most people, I would say 95% plus of the population, your human capital does look like a bond. Now, you know, the degree of what type of bond is going to depend on the business you're in. If you're in a super cyclical business, right, it's a very different bond than if you're in a business that really doesn't ebb and flow. I'm sure doctors, for example, don't have a, you know, like that is a very high quality corporate bond, right? And they're getting tons of income from it. Versus if you're in a super cyclical industry, boom, bust, that might be a high yield bond, right? That you got to get paid when you get paid because you're going to go bust and find a new job. So, but still modeling that out, I think can be important because you can say, wow, you know, if I do a discounted cash flow analysis of all those future potential payments, that's a huge value that is in this structural bond position. Like, why am I holding so many bonds in my investment capital? Do I need to? Like, am I only doing that for liability matching purposes, or should I potentially actually be thinking about being more aggressive with that because I need to barbell what I'm doing on the human capital side? There is an argument, by the way, that's been placed by a lot of sort of personal finance researchers who say, like, young people, like young investors in their early 20s, should not just be all equities. They should be levered equities. because their human capital at that point of 40 plus years of working is such a huge proportion of their total capital that they need to lever up their equity exposure to offset it.
Right, but that's also an assumption of ceteris paribus or ergodicity, right? That's part of the rub with that. And me, I would argue whether you have a bond-like or equity-like income, you should actually, your savings should be in like long volatility, just to hedge your risks in general. Like you shouldn't be doubling down on bonds or equities or anything that's long GDP or long liquidity. That's neither here nor there. The other one, it made me think though, do surgeons or most doctors have a bond-like income? Is it more like a commercial real estate like income? They have a tiny equity tranche when they get started. They have all this massive debt, and they got to pay down that debt over 20, 25 years.
I wasn't thinking about the debt. I wasn't thinking about the debt. That's a good point.